The doorbell chimed at exactly 7:43 p.m. on a chilly Tuesday evening in Seattle. I wasn't expecting anyone. No DoorDash driver was hauling pizza to my doorstep. I'd been cooking my own meals since I could hold a spatula. I set down my glass of wine, curiosity prickling my skin, and padded to the front door of my craftsman-style home. When I swung it open, I nearly laughed at the cosmic joke staring back at me. My parents, Margaret and Henry, stood on the porch, looking smaller than I remembered. Their hair was grayer, their shoulders slumped, like the weight of years had finally caught up. Their faces held something new, something I'd never seen before. Was it despair? I'm Olivia, and this was the last time I saw Margaret and Henry as the parents I once knew. They felt like strangers after all this time. I hadn't spoken to them in years, not since they poured their energy into helping my sister, Sophia, land her shiny corner office at a top consulting firm in Portland. I wasn't invited to her big move-in day, but I saw the photos on Instagram, Margaret beaming, Henry clapping Sophia's shoulder, all pride and polish. Meanwhile, my own milestones, like my graduation from the University of Washington, sat ignored, my photos probably stuffed in some dusty drawer. Olivia, sweetheart, Margaret's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. Can we come in? I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe of the home I'd bought with my own sweat, not a dime from them. Depends. You lost or something? Henry cleared his throat, his eyes darting to the ground. Please, Olivia. We need to talk. I laughed, sharp and short. Talk? The last time we talked, Henry told me I was being dramatic about scraping by for textbooks while Sophia's tuition was paid in full. Still, I stepped aside, letting them in. Curiosity is a powerful thing, and I'd waited years to see them squirm. They shuffled into my living room, looking out of place against the sleek hardwood floors and the leather couch I'd chosen myself. Margaret's eyes scanned the room, probably pricing every painting, every lamp. She'd always had a knack for spotting value, though she never saw mine. Nice place, she murmured, almost to herself. Thanks, I said, my voice cool. Turns out working 3 jobs through college teaches you a thing or two about money. Henry flinched, just a flicker, but I caught it. Good. Let it sting. I sat across from them, my posture relaxed, but my mind sharp. So, what's this about? I'm guessing it's not a social call. Margaret twisted her hands in her lap, her wedding ring glinting under the light. We made mistakes, Olivia. Mistakes? I raised an eyebrow, keeping my tone even. You mean like when you drained my college fund to send Sophia to Stanford? Or when I was eating instant noodles for 2 years straight while working night shifts at that greasy diner on Capitol Hill? The silence was heavy, like a storm cloud ready to burst. Henry opened his mouth, then closed it again. Margaret's eyes glistened, but I didn't soften. Not yet. I watched Margaret and Henry shift uncomfortably on my leather couch, their presence clashing with the life I'd built in Seattle. The air was thick, charged with years of unspoken resentment. I leaned back in my armchair, letting the silence stretch, my eyes locked on theirs. They wanted to talk? Fine. But this was my house, my rules. Margaret's gaze darted around the room again, lingering on the abstract painting above the fireplace, the polished bookshelves, the view of Puget Sound through the window. You've done well for yourself, Olivia, she said, her voice soft, almost calculating. 3 jobs, 2 degrees, and a lot of sleepless nights, I replied, my tone steady as a drumbeat. No thanks to you. Henry cleared his throat, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. We're not here to fight, Olivia. Then why are you here? I tilted my head, my voice calm but sharp, like a blade hidden in silk. Because last I checked, you were too busy celebrating Sophia's big promotion in Portland to notice I existed. Margaret flinched, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. We should have been there for you. We know that now. Now? I let out a dry laugh, crossing my arms. You mean after you pulled every penny from my college fund to pay for Sophia's MBA at Stanford? After I worked night shifts at that dive diner on Capitol Hill, serving drunk frat boys just to afford rent? After I paid off my student loans last year, no help from you. Henry's face reddened, but he didn't look away. We thought Sophia's education was an investment in the family's future. The words hit like a punch, but I didn't blink. An investment? I repeated, my voice low, controlled. Funny how my future didn't make the cut. Margaret's eyes welled up, but I wasn't buying the tears. Not yet. We made mistakes, she whispered, her voice trembling. We see that now. Mistakes. I leaned forward, my gaze pinning them both. You didn't trip and fall into a bad decision, Mom. You chose Sophia over me, every single time. You chose her Harvard dreams while I was eating ramen and dodging debt collectors. You were pretty damn confident in those choices back then. The room felt smaller, the air heavy with truth. Henry opened his mouth, then closed it, like he knew no words could undo the past. Margaret reached for his hand, but her eyes stayed on me, pleading. Olivia, please. We're here because we need you. I raised an eyebrow, letting the silence linger. Need me? I said finally, my voice dripping with skepticism. That's new. What's the catch? Henry shifted, his jaw tight. It's about Sophia. Things aren't going as planned. I smirked, leaning back. Let me guess. Her perfect life's falling apart and now you're knocking on my door? Typical. Margaret's sob broke the quiet, but I didn't soften. I'd spent years hardening my heart against their excuses. We're family, Olivia, she said, her voice barely audible. Family, I echoed, the word bitter on my tongue. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't leave you to drown. The doorbell rang again, sharp and sudden, cutting through the tension like a knife. The doorbell's chime sliced through the heavy silence in my Seattle living room. Margaret and Henry froze, their eyes darting to the door. I didn't move, letting the sound hang in the air like a warning. I knew who it was. I'd been waiting for this moment, and the universe was delivering it right on cue. Stay put, I said, my voice calm but firm, as I rose from my armchair. I crossed the hardwood floor, each step deliberate, and opened the front door. There stood Sophia, my sister, her designer purse swinging wildly, her face a mix of panic and defiance. She looked like she'd just run through a storm, her perfectly styled hair fraying at the edges. Mom? Dad? Sophia's voice was shrill as she pushed past me, her heels clicking on the floor. What are you doing here? I told you I'd handle it. Handle what, exactly? I closed the door with a soft click, leaning against it, my arms crossed. The divorce? The credit card debt? Or the fact you've been dipping into their retirement fund? Sophia spun around, her eyes wide, like a deer caught in headlights. Margaret gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Henry's jaw tightened, his face paling. They hadn't expected me to know. They hadn't expected me to be ready. How do you know about that? Sophia stammered, her bravado crumbling. I smirked, stepping closer, my voice steady as a heartbeat. I'm a product manager at one of the biggest tech firms in Seattle, Sophia. Information is my currency. I know about the $75,000 you borrowed for your consulting business that tanked. The $40,000 wedding you put on Mom's credit cards. The foreclosure notice on their Portland house because you convinced them to refinance for you. Margaret's sob broke the silence, raw and jagged. Henry stared at Sophia, his voice barely a whisper. Is this true? Sophia's mouth opened, then closed, her eyes darting between them. I was going to pay it back, she said, her voice cracking. I just needed time. Time? I laughed, sharp and cold. Like the time I spent working double shifts at that diner on Capitol Hill to pay for my textbooks, while you were sipping martinis at Stanford, funded by my college savings. Olivia, stop. Sophia snapped, her hands balling into fists. You don't get it. Some of us have real careers to maintain, real responsibilities. Real responsibilities? I stepped closer, my voice low, cutting. Like manipulating mom and dad into selling their house to cover your mistakes? Again. Margaret's head snapped up, her eyes wide. Selling the house? Sophia, what is she talking about? Sophia's face flushed, her composure unraveling. It's not like that. I'm fixing it. Fixing it, I echoed, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Like you fixed their retirement? Or my future? Henry stood, his hands trembling. Enough. Olivia, how do you know all this? I met his gaze, unflinching. Because I'm not the naive kid you left to fend for herself. I've got friends, contacts, and a knack for digging up the truth. You want to know what else I found? The room went still, their eyes locked on me. I let the moment hang, heavy and sharp, like a blade ready to fall. The private room at the Pink Door in Seattle buzzed with tension, the clink of wine glasses a stark contrast to the storm brewing at our table. I'd chosen the restaurant carefully upscale enough to unsettle Margaret and Henry, but not so flashy they could accuse me of flaunting my success. Emma and Lucas, my best friend and business partner, flanked me like sentinels, their presence a quiet reminder I wasn't alone. Across the table, Margaret and Henry sat stiffly, their faces etched with exhaustion. Sophia, 10 minutes late, stormed in, her $2,000 coat screaming money they no longer had. Really, Olivia? Sophia tossed her purse onto a chair, eyeing Emma and Lucas. You needed backup? They're witnesses, I said, pouring myself a glass of Pinot Noir, my voice smooth as the wine. And moral support. For what's coming. Support for what? Henry's tone was sharp, his eyes narrowing. The truth, I replied, setting the glass down with a soft clink. The whole truth. But first, let's order. I'm starving. The waiter came and went, small talk crumbling under the weight of what was unsaid. Margaret picked at her napkin, Henry stared at his water glass, and Sophia scrolled her phone, avoiding my gaze. Finally, Margaret broke the silence, her voice trembling. Olivia, please. We're your family. I set down my fork, the metal cool against my fingers. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't play favorites with college funds. Family doesn't leave one kid to drown while the other gets a yacht. Oh, here we go, Sophia snapped, rolling her eyes. Poor Olivia, always the victim. Lucas's hand tightened on his glass, but I raised a hand, stopping him. No, let her talk. Tell us, Sophia. How much have you borrowed from mom and dad over the past 5 years? Go on, give us a number. Her face paled, her phone dropping to the table. That's none of your business. Wrong. I pulled out my phone, my voice steady, lethal. It's my business when they show up at my doorstep begging for help. Should I read the numbers? Because I have them. All of them. How dare you? Sophia's voice rose, frantic. You're just jealous because Jealous. I cut her off, leaning forward. Of what? The $60,000 down payment for your condo? The $45,000 wedding you charged to mom's cards? The $150,000 you blew on that failed consulting venture? Or the credit cards you opened in mom's name without her knowing? Margaret gasped, her hand clutching Henry's arm. Sophia, tell me that's not true. They offered to help. Sophia's voice cracked, her eyes wild. They wanted to help. Like they wanted to help me? I pulled out a document, sliding it across the table. This is my college fund statement from 2010. The day before you withdrew every cent for Sophia's Stanford tuition, it had $90,000. After, $112.47. My money. Grandma's money. For my education. Margaret's sob was raw, Henry's face flushed with shame. Sophia stared at the paper, her hands shaking. I spread out another stack of documents, each one crisp and damning. These are my conditions. 10 of them. Sign every one, and I'll help save your house. Refuse, and you're on your own. Sophia snatched the papers, her face twisting as she read. A public apology? Family therapy? Community service? This is insane. She threw them down. You're trying to humiliate us. No, Emma said, her voice calm but firm. She's trying to make you see what you did to her. We did what we thought was best, Henry insisted, his voice hollow. Best for who? Lucas asked, his tone quiet but piercing, because it sure as hell wasn't Olivia. The word best landed like a grenade. Sophia stood, her chair scraping back. You can't prove anything. I smiled, slow and sharp. Actually, I can. The morning after the dinner, my Seattle home office hummed with purpose. Papers were strewn across my desk, each one a piece of the plan I'd been crafting for weeks. Emma paced behind me, her sneakers soft on the hardwood floor, peering over my shoulder as I typed. Are you seriously making them sign all this? She asked, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. Word for word, I said, hitting print. The machine word, spitting out pages that held my terms, my justice. They want my help? This is the price. Emma skimmed the first page, her eyes widening. Girl, this is savage. Public apologies, therapy, financial audits? What if they say no? I shrugged, stacking the pages neatly. Then they lose everything. Their house, their savings, their pride. I'm ready to take it all. My phone buzzed. Lucas, confirming the restaurant for tonight's next meeting. Private room, 7 people, just like you asked. You sure about this, Olivia? Wouldn't miss it, I said, a half-smile tugging at my lips. Someone's got to keep me from going too far. He laughed, but there was a warning in it. Just don't burn the place down. The doorbell rang, sharp and early. I opened it to find Sophia, alone, her designer heels swapped for scuffed flats, her face raw with desperation. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the living room. Before Mom and Dad get here. By all means, I muttered, closing the door. Make yourself at home. Sophia paced, her hands twisting together. Look, I know I screwed up, but there's gotta be another way. More time, maybe? I can fix this. Time? Emma snorted from the couch, where she'd been scrolling her phone. Like the time Olivia needed to finish college without drowning in debt? Sophia shot her a glare. This isn't about you. She's right, I said, my voice quiet but firm. This is about responsibility. Something you've never had to face. I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. You think more loans will save you? More lies. The doorbell rang again. Margaret and Henry, right on time, their faces gaunt, like they'd aged a decade overnight. Sit, I said, gesturing to the couch. They obeyed, their movements slow, defeated. I pulled out the stack of papers, my terms outlined in black and white. You've seen the conditions. But there's one more thing you need to know. I paused, letting the weight settle. I bought your Portland house. Foreclosure auction, last week. As of yesterday, I own the place where you raised your golden child. Sophia's gasp was sharp, her hands flying to her mouth. Margaret's eyes welled up, Henry's jaw clenched. You can't, Sophia stammered. I did. My voice was steady, a river carving through stone. Sign the papers, follow my terms, and you can stay as tenants. Refuse, and you're out by next week. Why? Margaret sobbed, her voice breaking. We're your family. Family? I laughed, the sound brittle. Family doesn't mock your dreams while funding someone else's shopping sprees. Family doesn't steal your future to prop up a facade. Sophia stood, her face flushed. You're cruel. Lucas stepped forward, his voice low. Careful. Any outburst voids the deal. I held up the papers, my eyes locked on theirs. You have 24 hours. Choose wisely. The air in my Seattle dining room was thick, the kind of heavy that makes every word feel like a stone. Margaret and Henry sat across from me, their faces pale under the chandelier's soft glow. Sophia perched on the edge of her chair, her fingers gripping her purse like a lifeline. Emma and Lucas stood nearby, silent but steady, their presence grounding me. The stack of papers me conditions sat on the table, but tonight wasn't about signatures. It was about something deeper, something I'd carried since I was a kid. I pulled out an old, creased letter, its edges worn from years of being hidden, then found, then hidden again. "Recognize this, Mom?" I asked, holding it up, my voice calm but sharp, like a blade catching the light. Margaret's eyes widened, her hand trembling as she reached for it. Where did you get that?" "Sophia's room," I said, my gaze steady. "When I was helping her pack for college. The college you paid for with my future." Henry shifted, his voice low. "Olivia, what is this?" I unfolded the letter, my fingers steady despite the ache in my chest. "Dear Sophia," I began, my voice clear, each word deliberate. "I know you're worried about your sister's attitude lately, but remember, she's our backup plan. We only had her because the doctor said you might not be able to have kids. You're truly our miracle." The room went still, the silence so thick it felt like drowning. Margaret's sob broke first, raw and jagged. Henry stared at the table, his hands clenched into fists. Sophia's face crumpled, her eyes darting away. "I was 13 when I found this," I said, my voice softer now, but no less steady. 13 when I realized I was just an insurance policy. That's why you chose her, isn't it? Why my grades, my awards, my dreams never mattered. "That's not true," Margaret whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We loved you." "Loved me?" I laughed, the sound bitter, echoing off the walls. "You loved the idea of me, the safety net. But you poured everything into Sophia, her schools, her clothes, her life while I worked nights at that diner on Capitol Hill to survive." Henry's voice trembled. "We made mistakes, Olivia. We see that now." "Mistakes don't cut this deep," I said, sliding the letter back into its envelope. "But here's what's next." I pushed the stack of papers forward. "Sign these. Public apology to the family. 6 months of family therapy. And a lease $3,500 a month to stay in the Portland house I now own. Utilities not included." Sophia's head snapped up. "That's more than their mortgage." "Market rate," I said, my tone cool. "Plus a small fee for the years you made me feel worthless." "You're heartless," Sophia hissed, her voice shaking. "No," Lucas said, stepping forward, his voice low but firm. "She's holding you accountable." Margaret clutched Henry's arm, her voice barely audible. "Why, Olivia? We're your family." "Family?" I stood, my eyes locked on theirs. "Family doesn't write letters like this. Family doesn't steal one kid's future to prop up another's lies." I pointed to the papers. "Sign or find somewhere else to live. You've got until tomorrow." The clock on my Seattle living room wall ticked past midnight, the house quiet except for the faint hum of the city outside. I was sipping chamomile tea, trying to unwind, when the doorbell jolted me upright. I set the mug down, my pulse quickening. No one shows up this late unless they're desperate. I opened the door, and there was Sophia, mascara streaking her face, her breath sharp with whiskey. She swayed, clutching the doorframe. "You won," she slurred, her voice thick with defeat. "Happy now?" I should have shut the door. Instead, I stepped aside. "You're drunk, Sophia. Call an Uber." She staggered to my couch, collapsing onto the leather with a bitter laugh. "You know what Dad always said? Olivia's responsible. Olivia doesn't need help. That's why they gave me everything. Because you could handle it all." "Handle it?" My voice was low, steady, but anger simmered beneath. "That's not help, Sophia. That's neglect. While you were partying at Stanford on my college fund, I was scrubbing tables at that Capitol Hill diner until 3 a.m. to pay rent." She waved a hand, dismissive. "Look at you now. This house, your perfect life. I got nothing. Nothing." I stepped closer, my eyes narrowing. "I earned this. Every brick, every light bulb. You? You burned through their savings, their retirement, my future. And you knew it was mine. You knew every dollar you took was meant for me, and you didn't care. I'm their golden child, she whispered, her voice cracking. Their perfect daughter. And now you're neither. I pulled out my phone, my voice cold, deliberate. I've got everything, Sophia. Gambling debts, secret credit cards, the $50,000 you siphoned from your ex's company before the divorce. Want me to send it to the police? The bank? The family? She lunged for the phone, her movements sloppy. I stepped back, and she stumbled, catching herself on the wall. You can't tell them, she begged, her voice raw. They'll never forgive me. Not like they never forgave you. Do anything, she sobbed, sinking to the floor. I'll get help. I'll pay it back. With what? I crossed my arms. The trust fund you drained? Mom and Dad's savings you stole. Her hand swung, fast and wild, slapping my cheek with a sharp crack. The sound echoed, but I didn't flinch. Feel better? I asked, grabbing her wrist, my voice steady as stone. You think I enjoy this? You love it, she spat, tears streaming. You love watching us suffer. No, I touched my stinging cheek, my eyes locked on hers. I'm making you feel what I felt. The moment you realize no one's coming to save you. The loneliness when your family chooses someone else. She slumped, defeated. What do you want? 2 choices, I said, my voice calm, final. 1, I send everything to the authorities, and you face fraud charges, maybe jail. 2, you tell the truth. Every lie, every dollar, every manipulation. You admit what you did to me, to Mom and Dad, to your ex. You get help for your spending addiction. You do it openly. That'll ruin me, she whispered. No, I said, leaning down. It'll set you free. She stared at me, then grabbed the pen from my coffee table, her hand shaking as she signed the papers. I hate you, she muttered. No, I said softly. You hate the consequences. The next evening, my Seattle living room felt like a courtroom, the air taut with anticipation. Margaret and Henry sat on the couch, their faces drawn, hands clasped tightly. Sophia stood alone by the window, clutching a stack of papers, her usual designer flair replaced by a plain sweater and jeans. Emma and Lucas leaned against the wall, their presence a quiet anchor. I sat in my armchair, my posture relaxed, but my eyes sharp, ready for what was coming. Sophia cleared her throat, her voice shaky but resolute. I want you to hear it from me, she said, glancing at our parents. She lifted the papers, her hands trembling, and began to read. My first theft was at 16. I stole Mom's credit card for a $500 prom dress. When she found out, she paid it off and told me not to worry. That's where it started. Margaret opened her mouth, but Sophia raised a hand. Please, let me finish. She took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the page. By college, I was spending thousands a month on clothes, parties, drugs. When Olivia's college fund $90,000 went to my Stanford tuition, I knew it was wrong. I told myself I deserved it. Sophia, stop, Henry pleaded, his voice cracking. No, Dad. Her voice hardened, though tears glistened in her eyes. You need to know what your perfect daughter did. She flipped a page. I forged Mom's signature on loans. I drained your joint account. I stole $50,000 from my ex's company before our divorce. The total, she swallowed hard. Just over $1.2 million. The room froze, the silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. Margaret swayed, whispering, $1.2 million? Not including Olivia's college fund, Sophia continued, her voice breaking. Or the money I borrowed directly from you. I destroyed over $1.5 million of this family's money. Henry sank into the couch, his face ashen. Why? Because I could, Sophia said, her voice raw. Because you taught me money was love, and I craved love. She looked at me, her eyes pleading for something forgiveness, understanding. I couldn't tell. I sent copies of this confession to the bank and my ex. I'm turning myself in tomorrow. No, Margaret cried, reaching for her. We can fix this. That's the problem, Mom, I said, my voice steady, cutting through the chaos. You always fix things for Sophia. Look where that got us. Sophia shook her head. Olivia didn't make me do this. She gave me a choice. I chose the truth. The truth. Henry laughed, bitter and hollow. The truth is we failed both of you. No, I corrected, leaning forward. You failed Sophia by never setting boundaries. You failed me by pretending I didn't exist. I pulled out a new document, sliding it across the coffee table. This is the lease for the Portland house, $3,500 a month. Sign it by tonight, and you stay. Refuse, and you're out by Friday. Sophia stepped forward, her voice soft. I'm not staying. I found a studio apartment in Portland. After I face the legal stuff, I'm checking into rehab for my spending and substance issues. For the first time, I felt a flicker of respect for her. Good, I said, my tone even. Don't waste it. As they stood to leave, Sophia handed me a folded paper. Read it when I'm gone, she whispered. The door closed behind them, and the weight of her words lingered like smoke. The therapist's office in downtown Seattle smelled faintly of lavender, a feeble attempt to soften the tension coiled in the room. Dr. Larson sat in her chair, her notepad balanced on her knee, her expression calm but attentive. I claimed one couch, my posture rigid, while Margaret and Henry huddled on another, their hands clasped like they were bracing for a storm. Sophia's empty chair sat between us, a silent ghost. She was in court today, facing the consequences of her confession. Sophia can't be here, Margaret began, her voice thin, fraying at the edges. She's in court, I cut in, my tone flat but steady. I know. Her ex filled me in. Henry's eyes narrowed, his voice tight with anger. Did you push her to turn herself in, Olivia? Dr. Larson leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. Henry, is that what hurts most? That Sophia's facing consequences? I'm hurt because Olivia's using this to tear our family apart, he snapped, his gaze locked on me. I laughed softly, the sound sharp, cutting. Your family was broken long before I said a word. I'm just making you look at the pieces. Dr. Larson's pen scratched against her notepad. Let's start with how we got here. Margaret, what do you think? Margaret clutched a tissue, her eyes red-rimmed. We thought we did our best. We gave everything we could. Everything. I leaned forward, my voice steady but laced with years of pain. Your best was telling me I didn't deserve college. Your best was watching me work dangerous night shifts at that diner on Capitol Hill while you funded Sophia's shopping sprees. We didn't know about her addiction, Henry protested, his voice hoarse. But you knew about my pain, I said, my eyes boring into his. You just didn't care. Dr. Larson raised a hand, her voice calm. Olivia, tell them how you really feel. I turned to face them, my voice low, deliberate, each word a stone. You made me feel worthless. Like I was a failed backup plan. That letter you wrote, Mom, calling Sophia your miracle, it confirmed everything. I was just the spare. Margaret flinched, her sob raw. That letter I never meant for you to see it. But you meant it, I said, my voice unwavering. You wrote it. The silence was suffocating. Henry's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced at it, his face paling. Sophia got 6 months, he said, his voice hollow. Probation and mandatory rehab. Good, I said, my tone firm. She needs it. How can you be so cold? Margaret cried, her voice breaking. Dr. Larson interjected, her voice steady. Is it cold, or is it healthy to let someone face their actions? Henry shook his head, bewildered. How did we end up here? I pulled out an old diary, its pages worn from years of secrets. Let me help you. I opened to a marked page, my voice steady as I read. Dear Diary, I'm 13. Today I learned I'm no one's miracle. Mom and Dad only kept me because they thought Sophia might die. Now I know why they love her more. Why nothing I do is ever enough. Margaret sobbed. Henry looked gut-punched. Dr. Larson's voice was soft. Olivia, what do you want from them now? I want them to feel it, I said, my voice quiet but fierce. The moment you realize you're not enough. That your parents see you as Plan B. We get it, Henry said, his voice breaking. No, I said, standing. You don't. But you will. The Seattle skyline sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my tech firm's office, a sleek tower in the heart of downtown. I stood at the head of the conference room, my team arrayed around the table, as I presented our latest product strategy to the board. My voice was steady, each slide a testament to years of grinding, learning, leading. In the back, Margaret and Henry sat, their eyes wide, their usual air of judgment replaced by something new: respect, maybe, or disbelief. I clicked to the final slide, outlining our projected $10 million revenue boost. Questions? I asked, my tone confident, inviting challenge. The board nodded, impressed, and I wrapped up with a smile. As the room cleared, I caught Margaret whispering to Henry, her voice soft but audible. She's incredible. I walked over, my heels clicking on the polished floor. So, what did you think? Henry cleared his throat, his hands fidgeting. Olivia, we had no idea. This what you do, it's remarkable. Years of night shifts and self-taught coding got me here, I said, my voice cool but steady. No thanks to you. Margaret's eyes glistened, her voice trembling. We're proud of you. We should have said it sooner. Proud? I raised an eyebrow, leaning against the table. You don't get to claim that now. Not after you called my tech internship cute, while Sophia's business degree was your investment. Henry flinched, but he met my gaze. We were wrong. We see that. I let the silence hang, heavy and sharp. Good. Keep seeing. I glanced at my watch. I've got another meeting. You can find your way out. That evening, I drove to a rehab center in Portland, the autumn rain slicking the roads. Dr. Larson's words echoed in my mind. Show Sophia there's a way forward. I didn't want to go, but I parked, grabbed my umbrella, and walked inside. Sophia sat in the garden, a paper coffee cup in her hands, looking healthier but smaller, stripped of her usual glamour. You came, she said, her voice soft, surprised. Dr. Larson's orders, I replied, sitting across from her, my tone neutral. How's it going? Better, she said, fidgeting with the cup. Hard, but better. Mom and Dad told me about your office. Dad wouldn't shut up about your presentation. I shrugged, my voice dry. Guess their backup plan paid off. Olivia. She set the cup down, her eyes earnest. I saw the college fund papers during my financial audit. Exactly $90,000 I took from you. I'm calculating it with interest. I'll pay it back, every cent. Keep it, I said, my voice firm. Use it for therapy, rehab, whatever keeps you clean. She stared, her eyes welling up. I don't deserve this. It's not kindness, I said, leaning forward. It's an investment in change. Don't waste it. As I stood to leave, she called out, Olivia? Thank you for showing up. I nodded, my voice quiet. Just don't make me regret it. Back in Seattle, I called Emma, my voice heavy. They saw me today, Emma. The real me. And I saw Sophia. She's trying, but I don't know if I can trust it. You're giving them a chance, Emma said, her voice warm. That's not weakness. That's strength. I looked out at the city lights, my heart a tangle of hope and caution. Maybe, but I'm not letting my guard down. The autumn breeze carried a crisp edge as I sat across from Sophia in the garden of the Portland Rehab Center. The space was quiet, save for the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of traffic. Sophia looked different, her face clearer, her eyes less haunted, though she still fidgeted with her paper coffee cup like it was an anchor. Stripped of her designer armor, she seemed smaller, more human. You actually showed up, she said, her voice soft, a mix of surprise and relief. Dr. Larson's orders, I replied, settling into the metal chair, my tone even. And maybe she's onto something. Sophia's lips twitched, almost a smile. Mom and Dad told me about your office visit. Dad kept going on about your board presentation. Said you ran the room like a pro. Yeah, I said, shrugging, my voice dry. Turns out their backup plan wasn't such a bust. Olivia. She set the cup down, her eyes locking on mine. I saw the college fund paperwork during the financial audit. Exactly $90,000 I took from you. I'm calculating it with interest comes to $120,000 now. I'm paying it back, every penny. It'll take years, but I will. Keep it, I said, my voice firm, cutting through her resolve. Use it for therapy, rehab, whatever keeps you on track. I don't need your money. She stared, her eyes glistening. I don't deserve this. It's not kindness, I said, leaning forward, my voice steady. It's an investment in you changing. Don't screw it up. She nodded, swallowing hard. I won't. I promise. I stood, ready to leave, but paused. Sophia, you're here. That's a start. Keep going. That night, I pulled into my Seattle driveway and froze. Margaret and Henry stood on my porch, their silhouettes stark against the glow of the porch light. They'd been living in the Portland house for 3 weeks, following my rules, attending therapy. But this was unexpected. How's Sophia? Margaret asked as I approached, her voice tentative. Better. Different, I said, unlocking the door. Come in. We need to talk. They followed, settling onto their usual spots on the couch, but something felt awfully tense, more open. Henry spoke first, his voice steady. I've been thinking about what Dr. Larson said about generational trauma. My dad treated me the way I treated you. But I had a choice, Olivia. I chose wrong. We both did, Margaret added, pulling an envelope from her purse. We've been working on this for weeks. I took it, my fingers brushing the paper. Inside was a handwritten letter addressed to our extended family. What's this? Margaret's voice trembled. A confession. How we hurt you, enabled Sophia, failed as parents. We're sending it to everyone. No more hiding. I read it slowly, each word a raw admission stealing my college fund, favoring Sophia, ignoring my pain. But there was more, regret, real and unfiltered. There's something else, Henry said. We're selling the antique shop. What? I looked up, startled. That's your life. No, Henry corrected, his voice firm. It was our excuse to avoid facing our failures. The sale money splits evenly between you and Sophia. Not because you need it, but because it's right. Margaret nodded. The other half goes to a scholarship fund for kids whose parents can't or won't help. I sat back, their words sinking in. The pride was gone, replaced by something raw, human. This doesn't fix everything, I said, my voice quiet. Nothing can, Margaret whispered. But maybe we can build something honest. The aroma of roasted chicken filled my Seattle dining room, a warmth I'd created myself, no catering, no pretense. The table was set for form, Margaret, Henry, and Sophia, who'd been granted a weekend pass from rehab. I'd cooked every dish, from the garlic mashed potatoes to the apple pie cooling on the counter. Tonight wasn't about forgiveness, but about testing the ground for something new. Margaret and Henry arrived first, their faces softer, less guarded. Sophia came last, her jeans and sweater a stark contrast to her old designer flash. She hesitated at the door, then stepped inside, her eyes meeting mine. Smells amazing, she said, her voice quiet. Thanks, I replied, my tone even, gesturing to the table. Sit. Let's eat. The clink of forks and soft murmurs filled the space, the tension easing with each bite. Margaret complimented the food, Henry nodded in agreement, and Sophia ate slowly, like she was savoring more than the meal. I watched them, my heart a tangle of caution and hope. After dessert, I pulled out the lease agreement, sliding it across the table. $3, $500 a month for the Portland house. Utilities not included. Sign it, and you stay. Therapy continues. Once a week, all of us. Henry reached for the pen first, his signature steady. Margaret followed, her hand trembling but sure. Sophia nodded, her voice soft. I'm staying in my apartment. But I'll be at therapy. I want to keep trying. I leaned back, the weight of their signatures settling. Good. No promises beyond this dinner. But we'll see. Margaret's eyes welled up. We'll be here, Olivia. Just us. No more pretending. As they left, Sophia lingered, her hand brushing mine. Thank you. For tonight. Don't thank me yet, I said, my voice steady. Just show up. After the door closed, I called Lucas. They're trying, I said, my voice catching. Really trying. And you? He asked. I'm trying too, I admitted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But building something from the ashes they left. That's winning, he said, his voice warm. Not by breaking them, but by making them grow. I looked around my home, built on my own strength. The autumn wind rattled the windows, carrying away the past. Something new was growing, something real. And for the first time, I felt ready to face it.